Hey guys, it's Eager. Just have 4 replays to show you guys from the previous 2 wars. These are the 4 attacks that I executed, and I started pretty well in them. And so I want to break them down a little bit more for you guys, kind of give you an insight into maybe how I think. 3 of them, I believe, are GoLaLoon 2. So we can go in a little bit more detail about my deployment. I'm also trying a new recording strategy, so hopefully this produces a little less lag, but I guess we'll see in the end. So this is the first base that I attacked, so if it's not obvious, my recording strategy is to record and then to record again without having Clash of Clans on, try to reduce the processing that my phone takes. Anyway, so the plan is pretty simple here. The queen is pretty exposed, pretty weak too. This is my standard composition: 2 golem, 3 lava. If your queen is strong enough, I would always recommend that you bring 2 golem. If you have a weaker queen, then you could consider 1 and just go straight for their queen. I'll show you later on, you really don't even need to take away an air defense. Obviously, it helps when I have a 5th spell, but I screwed up a little bit, and that's what happens sometimes. So let's just start the replay. I'll pause in the video as we go to break down some things. So I'm going to be dropping both my golems here and again. Business is the same. I've got them going down. I would have liked that second golem to be a little bit more out, but it's not too bad because the funneling is quite simple in this base. The king does take a little bit of a detour, but he does make his way in, and I'll be taking things as I would normally expect. And for once, I remember my poison. So all of this is pretty standard. You'll note that I'm actually struggling to reach an air defense. Again, it's not that big of a deal. I think my golem will actually take the one that's in that same part because they have so much power. So I started to come in, you'll see, towards that eastern air defense. And that's partly because I chose to protect my queen so she can help with cleanup. Typically, I have kind of solved my cleanup problem with a couple minions. You'll note that I only bring 4. You really don't need to bring more than a couple. Once you get them high level enough, they kind of do enough damage to slowly clean it up as long as you deploy them right after you clear an area. So the other thing that I want to show is exactly how I deploy and place my rage spells. So one of the things that I've noticed that people have been doing kind of incorrectly is they're not giving their loon density enough. They're not making it dense enough in the beginning. So you really want to make sure you push through. If you don't, you can think about it as like building momentum. You really need that strong start. If you spread yourself too thin, they're liable to spread everywhere. They're liable to, if the lava is not protecting it and you lose 1 or 2, then that whole section breaks down because you just don't have enough. So I normally always do 2 on the first air defense, 2 lava, and make sure my loons are heavy enough. And then once that is beginning to get cleared, I'll start going in this case, clockwise rotation to grab the next air defense, and then they'll all collectively go to the last one. So you'll notice I'm just going to try to be as heavy as I can. So even these ones in the back, way back, because I need them to go to the core. And here comes, once I have this settled, I'll come in. And so you'll notice I put 1 rage right there to move everything through there. And there's my second rage. So this is meant to make an entire path around the core towards that last air defense. You really don't care too much about the damage part. You really just want their speed. So you could argue I can do a haste instead. In many cases, you actually can. Against air defenses, Expos, and Inferno, you actually need that extra damage boost to get them down a little bit quicker. So I traditionally still use Rage. Though if I know what the CC is, if I know the layout, I might switch and bring a few haste along too if I kind of know how things are laid out. So you kind of see how I would warp it around all the way around. If I'm a Town Hall 9, obviously I have only one freeze, or I mean no freeze and one rage left, and naturally you would just lay that on top of the last air defense. The other thing to notice is where I put the rage. I put it after the first level of defense. That's because you don't need them to zip into the first. If you time your deployment of your loons and your lava well, that should cover it just fine. So we'll just let it keep going around, and you'll see all my lava collect towards the end. Again, I would put the rage there if it happened to be a 9, but I have freeze, so I tend to do that a little bit more. Practically speaking, I think in this attack my pup actually fails to break, so it would have probably been a little bit better. This last freeze was probably not necessary. It's a little bit of an insurance policy to make sure that that whiz tower doesn't kill me. Something that I would do in a war attack, but really doesn't change my ability to finish this base. I probably had it without that last. And it's not a matter of your numbers. It's a matter of your execution. Really, 14 loons is fine. When I had less experience, that was one thing that I kind of didn't do too well. Is I was so concerned of my loons that it's just I put way too many in it, and I didn't manage to do anything else. So I remember this attack. So this was a 3-starred Town Hall 10. Obviously, it's not maxed. But it just goes to show you need to break down bases sometimes, especially when they're kind of awkward, a little bit differently. You don't want to just put like a rubber stamp on a particular technique and just run with it. So in this particular case, my idea was to, if it'll zoom out, okay, you'll see that I have 2 single infernos there. So that tells me I'm going with a witch attack as long as the compartments aren't that big. So it turns out, obviously, my compartments are pretty good. I can use a couple jump spells to map myself around. And then it's a matter of taking care of things that are really threatening to the witches. Because really, I don't care about anything else but the witches and my heroes. So on one side, I have a bunch of whiz tower, which kills skellies pretty quickly. So I'm going to plop a golem there and draw their fire. And on the other side are expos, which will reach the witches if they happen to be the closest unit. And they'll obviously mow them down quite quickly. So again, also, I'm going to pop down a golem and shield myself there. Otherwise, it's pretty standard. I'm just going to jam them down from the corner, and they're going to slowly make their way. And once I get through the Inferno, it's pretty much over. So there's my first one. I put it to the side so it's not in the reach of that first Inferno. Now bomb in the first layer because I can time it. No need to waste another spell there. And I just start working my way around this corner. I actually drop my king a little early. He makes a little trek around the outside and joins back in later. But that's not too bad because he draws the fire of the expos as well. So there's that golem on the left taking care of the whiz towers that I can slowly get rid of. And a freeze just to push my golem a little bit farther and let the skeletons get in range. But as the queen comes in again, she's responsible for the dragon. Everything's going to be fine. So witches, again, it's just like a slow, methodical attack. Take your time. Don't panic with the spells. Get a rage to get through the core. You'll see there's my golem on the right, dropped with my king, and everything's just going to start moving through. Here on out, it's already over. I know I have 3 stars as long as I don't run into like a bomb. So the last jump is going to open up 2 or 3 cannons, and it's really over from that point. So again, I guess the idea is sometimes you just need to look at a base a little bit differently and figure out a different strategy. So this will wrap up, and for the I'm going to have to grab the other video, which is this one. So here's another GoLaLoon. I did mess up pretty bad on this one, you'll see. I don't even take down a single air defense with my heroes. I'll point you where I made a funneling error, but it's unlikely, to be honest, that a Town Hall 9 could recover from this. That extra spell really helps me out. The extra units don't really help me out. It's the spell that really helps me out. But so the problem I made here is that I did not clear all the gold collectors on the right. I should have dropped at least one more wizard, maybe on the army camp too, if I'm being paranoid, since I have that archer tower's attention. But because I didn't include that last outer gold collector, you'll see my king. I'm gonna go. The cannon went way too early, and so that made my king go right instead of falling inwards. So at this point, you gotta kind of adjust for it, but I knew that I still wanted to take as much out. There's plenty of time. GoLaLoon is very fast, so I'm just going to let my queen take out as much as she can, and I'll see how the board looks like after she does her work. I probably wasted her ability. She could take out that archer tower, no problem. So you'll notice the queen is not quite dead, and my queen has died, sadly. The next best thing you can do here is take the lava and get the queen's attention. And so once she pops one of the lava, hopefully the pups can finish her off. And it happens that she's at a very low hit point here, so it's pretty easy. But again, it's just going to be a clockwise rotation. Try to do as much damage as possible. Make sure I get this corner completely clear before I move on and deploy to another corner. Otherwise, there's really nothing too fancy. Again, you'll see how I map my rage to go ahead and push myself around the base. This ledge, again, is probably necessary in this case because I didn't have too much lava life left. It could have been quite a disaster, but I did have a lot of loons, and there's no point defense left. So it is plausible that I would have made it around without it. It would have been a lot closer, though. So, again, at this point, it's over and have cleanup. So, we'll speed through it in a second and get to the last attack. So, I was able to attack there too. Using Nate's information of where things were, what the CC held. The plan is pretty simple here. The two lower air defenses are way too far out for a 2-star. You kind of generally approach Town Hall 9s a little differently for now. We don't have 3-star ability, and that's fine. It's very, very hard to get a maxed Town Hall 10 to be 3-starred, so particularly since I don't have 40/40 heroes. So because I have strong heroes, this is something Nate might not be able to pull off because his heroes are a little bit weaker. I decided once I grab those 2 air defenses, there's really nothing that he can do. I can freeze that single Inferno twice if I need to, and otherwise it's a straight walk into the Town Hall. There's just not enough in there that really worries me. So what I'm going to do is just take my time. My king can take quite a beating, so I'm just going to drop him down. And once he does his work and allows my queen to go straight into that air defense, I'll drop her in. So 2 cannons, put my queen a little bit biased, and she locks straight on. I use the ability early so that she doesn't switch onto the lava, and their job is done. Sure, they'll take out a couple more things, but I don't really care. At this point, I'm just going to drop my dragons in, use loons to get that last air defense. I put a dragon down first so that it'll shield against the loon, and I just rage my way in. I'll eventually drop that first. I know where his Teslas are, so I'll drop that first freeze to cover as much as I can. The second freeze, I actually missed the Inferno slightly. I should have put it inwards a little bit more, but I was already far enough in to go and handle it, so it didn't matter too much. And I just go ahead. It's a very easy 2 star. So again, uh, not always a standard strategy. Don't always do the same deployment. Sometimes you got to look at things and put a little twist to it. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how to break down a base a little bit more. And good luck with the current war, and hopefully we get some more wins down our belt.